Hi, and welcome to What's the Worst That Could Happen. I'm Abby Whitaker, and today I have the lovely Lynsey on. She's the founder of 3 amazing businesses that I'm going to get her to introduce and tell you about. I'm so excited to have you on the potty today.
Yeah.
I've been trying to lock it down for a while now.
It is, and we've known each other for quite a few years.
Yes.
And different relationships, kind of friend, kind of client. I'm a clinical nutritionist. I guess I should probably start with that. Yes, I have 3 businesses, which I've told my husband to cut me off at that. I don't need to have any more, but I have my own practice at Seed and Sprout Nutrition. And then I opened up Nourish Blends Gut Food, which is a very microbiome, gut health focused product. And then I had another idea, which was opening up another business, the most recent one, which is called the Natural Moms Toolkit. Mm-hmm. And so it's really focusing on women with young children or pregnancy and providing them sort of the wisdom and that knowledge that I really feel has been lost over several generations about what we do when our children or our families are sick. So it has natural first aid kits and an ebook, and we're going to have a wellness store. So
amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing. I have partaken in all of Lynsey's businesses. I'm one of her clients. She gets my Sunday night SOS calls.
Yep.
2 a.m. in the morning. I remember when Billy was a baby, and this is probably part of people having this problem. I remember she actually put together a natural toolkit out of her own supply.
Yes, put it in the mailbox. Come pick it up.
2 or 3 in the morning. She's like, come pick it up. It's all ready for you. Just do this, this. So really amazing. So why don't you take us through a little bit of your business journey, where it started? Because obviously there's been a progression from Seed and Sprout to Gut Food to Natural Mama's Toolkit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know how it happened. It did. Look, I've been working with people for over, clinical practice for over 18 years. I've always really loved not only having my own practice, but working in health food stores. And some people always ask me, why are you, still in a health food store? And I go, it's ultimately about community. I feel like if you want to understand what's kind of going on with people, you need to still be out there in the community. And so I think between the two, being out on the front in the counter talking with people, and then also being in the clinic looking at probably more acute, more difficult, health issues, it kind of just allows me to see where there's patterns or where there's big holes and gaps. And one of them, of course, always I found in my clinical practice is that it almost doesn't matter which condition walks through my door. I need to do some work on their gut as a foundational layer. I really truly feel that there is a order of hierarchy when it comes to healing people. I often draw this in diagrams when people sit down in front of me. Genetics is our foundational layer. We can't change our genes, but we can communicate to them. So we can upregulate or downregulate them based upon environment, externally and internally. So that means the 2 biggest influences on our genetics is our nervous system and how stressed we are. And the other is, of course, nutrition. But how do we get nutrition in? The gateway for that is your gut health, your digestion, and your absorption. So, if someone comes in with a thyroid issue, I'm probably going to be working on their gut health first because it's the foundational layer above genetics that I have to get working right. And I think it was from seeing how much more effective the treatment could be if I started with someone's gut health that I guess the Nourish Blends Gut Food kind of came about. And I don't know if you want me to tell the story of how the actual product came about.
Yeah.
That was kind of just a really cool universal experience that happened. I was working at Go Vita Curmundi, which did you come in when I was working there? I don't know if I knew you at that time.
No, I think you weren't at the Real Grocer yet, but you were maybe I think Go Vita had just maybe closed.
Just closed. Yeah. So when I was working there for, I think it was about 4 or 5 years, I had an older lady come in, and I could tell that she had been upset and emotional because she'd sort of dried her eyes, and she had blood pathology with her, and her doctor basically said, you're going to be on a statin, you're going to be on all these, 3 different medications, you got to get your stuff together. So she got scared, and she came in looking for Metamucil. And I said, no. We didn't sell it anyway. But I said, look, I don't want to send her away empty-handed in any way, shape, or form. So all I literally did is in that moment of interaction with a beautiful person, I just walked around the bulk food bins and I thought, okay, nutritionally, what do I need? She needs omega-3 fatty acids. She needs soluble fiber. Like I just kind of pieced it together quickly, got the bulk foods, put them in a bag. And I just said, I want you to grind it up. And I just want you to have a tablespoon of this every day. And then we just talked about whole foods. And so she came in, I don't know how many weeks, was it 5 or 6 or something? She came in with a whole new set of bloods. Inflammation was down, glucose control was better, cholesterol was better. Like everything across the board was better. And she just came in and was so happy. And so it was honestly that little recipe I used to give out. I don't know if I ever gave it to you.
Yeah, you did.
You get the original?
Yeah.
You got the OG.
Yeah, I got the OG.
Which is on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I used to tell people to get these ingredients and make their own. And then, someone just said, why don't you make that into a product? Because it's so effective. And I was like, I don't know. So I suppose I can't take the claim on that business. Someone kind of pushed me to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, like it was your recipe.
I feel like, honestly, the way I approach all of what I do is I feel like it's just channeled through me. I know that sounds probably woo-woo or silly.
We love woo-woo.
Oh, okay, cool. I feel like I'm just, doing the work and the study on this to try and educate people. I actually always say I feel like I'm a teacher first and a clinical nutritionist second.
Yeah.
So it's my best gift I could ever give my clients is when you come in, if you have a diagnosis or a name, I want you to intimately understand what that is. Half the people that come in, you've got diverticulitis. Do you know what that means? And they're like, I've got some kind of gut issue. They don't actually have any understanding. So I said, all right, pull around diagrams, things, I'm like, you need to understand what diverticulitis is, the pathophysiology of it first. I was like, how do you fix something if you don't understand it in the first place? So real important part of what I do is education.
Yeah. And I think like even when you say like things channel through you, like even just from taking away like the woo-woo and even just from a business perspective, I think that the best businesses come from like learned experiences, right?
Yeah.
So what you've just described with that lady is like a real life situation where a solution was created and there was a gap. Because I know lots of people who are not going to go get all those ingredients. They just want to buy the thing that's ready to go and that's the best possible ingredients and all of that. And even for myself with my businesses, it's like, cool, I want to move to Sunshine Coast, been working in these Pilates studios in Brisbane, and there's never anywhere to recommend up there. That was
the start of yours?
Yeah. And then when I did the teacher training, it's like, I'm seeing all these teachers come out and they don't have the confidence.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's create a teacher training that gives them the actual confidence to walk out with more than a book, a manual and some exercises, but like how they can actually put that into practice and actually progress with their career in a really integral way. So I think it's really cool that all of your businesses have come from need. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I guess it's in some ways you're kind of guaranteed to start off pretty well on a business if you really identify a need, a human need by means. And fill that gap. And it's rewarding too.
Yeah.
Making a difference. It's really rewarding.
Yeah. And I think that like I know that one of your values is like making sure that this education is really accessible to everyone. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you. When you go into a doctor, and like I said, we have amazing doctors. I think the hardest thing is the way Medicare system is set up at the moment. They are told they have 10 or 15-minute appointments. Don't know how they get anything done at all. When you go, there's only time for someone to talk about what's going on with them, maybe a quick look in on bloods or something, and then a prescription generally of something. That's about all that they can do within that time. That doesn't bring someone into the journey of their own health challenge. That means that you're handing over your health to that GP to come up with a solution. And I always say you should never hand anyone your complete health. You really have to own it to some small degree yourself. And so I think that's probably why it's such an important part of what I do is I kind of want, I don't know if it's a good business model or not. I kind of want my clients to eventually not need me because they're going to understand enough about their physiology or their hormones or their skin or their digestive tract that when something comes up, eventually they're going to have a good solid base of knowledge to be like, wait a minute, I know how to fix that. Hang on. That's actually where the name from Seed and Sprout Nutrition came from. Because I always felt like every conversation I had with someone, whether it be in the health food store or whatever, I felt like it was planting a seed of knowledge. And I didn't know when it was going to sprout. It could be that day. It could be 2 weeks from now. It could be a year from now that they might recall a conversation where I've just maybe given them one little tidbit of information that they'll hold on to and go, wait a minute. That lady said something, a year ago, and maybe I'll try that.
Yeah.
So that's actually where the name Seed and Sprout Nutrition came from.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, many years ago. So it's really, I think it's such an important part of the whole process. I don't know if in other industries it's like that, but for what I do, I feel it's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's actually really cool. Like I know I've seen like different practitioners and different things, and I think that when you do go in and they say like, my goal is for you to not need me, I actually think that's awesome. It's like, cool, we're going to just...
Empowering.
Yeah. And I've even had a business mentor like that. She was like, we're going to do this for like 8 weeks. And she's like, my goal is that at the end of it, you don't need me. Maybe you can contact me anytime after that for no charge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
For like little bits of advice.
Yep.
But like, I'm not here to like create a situation where you constantly are dependent on me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool.
Well, that's authenticity, and the integrity of that person's probably in the right place, then, isn't it? Yeah. The most important thing is making that impact, creating the change, and getting you from A to B instead of having you being locked into a business thing. Yeah. I sometimes die when I hear sometimes what happens in my industry of how much people are charging. I had a lady come in the other day that kind of desperate, hormones, perimenopausal weight gain, which is a big thing, obviously, for women sort of 40 plus age bracket. And she, in desperation, reached out to someone and they wanted to charge her about $4,000 right off the bat. And I'm like, you don't need to charge someone $4,000 to get them from A to B. You can still value. Everyone has equity in a business relationship, but that's not equity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so we've spoken a bit about Seed and Sprout. So Seed and Sprout is consulting.
Yep.
And fixing. I don't know if that's the right word. But
look,
helping to,
We get anyone and everyone in. I don't tend to, as much as, gut health is something that I really love and am completely nerd out on it every single day. We get everything. I have everything from hormones to thyroid issues to cancer patients to anyone. And I think the shame of it all is generally I'm people's last chance. I'm at the end of the line.
Yeah.
So they've gone through so much of a journey with their health and well-being and maybe haven't gotten the right people or right support or shifted anything enough. So then they kind of go last ditch resort. Oh, I'll try, a clinical nutritionist or a naturopath or something, which I wish we'd get there a little bit earlier in the line because it'd be a lot easier to fix if people came there first to, get those foundational things. But we get anything and everything. I think the difference being a clinical nutritionist is we are trained to really work with medical diagnosis, and we are working with blood pathology and functional medicine testing, and we're kind of deep diving in to a lot of that medical science at a deeper understanding, but then working as food as medicine.
Yeah. And I feel like, from my perspective, it seems like in the last 5 to 10 years, it seems like that is becoming a little bit more normalized, a little bit more, not accepted, but like kind of like, you can find doctors these days who are like happy to work with.
Yes.
Your Western medicine that's happy to work with like, Eastern like natural options, which is like obviously a step in the right direction.
Oh, 100%. 10 years ago, honestly, it was hard. It was hard doing what I was doing. It was kind of rough to get people to be in the right mindset or shift. But yeah, it's been a really good trend. You know, what I find is probably, your generation and the younger ones before, I get really excited about it because you guys are way ahead of the game. And there is this consciousness and awareness about the concept of preventative health, like doing something before something gets really bad. Whereas probably the generation from mine afterwards,
you see them, they come to you when they're in crisis mode already.
100%. Actually, I nearly fell off my chair. It was actually probably about 6 months ago. I don't get as many males in my clinic because men are, a little tough. Their leg has to fall off before they get help. But I had one young guy, sort of late 20s, come in and book an appointment. And when I looked at his intake form, there wasn't much there. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, maybe it's a guy and they don't like, typing. So when he sat down there, he goes, no, look, I'm mainly sort of plant-based, maybe have some fish and things like that. He said, nothing's really wrong with me. I've got my bloods here. They're looking okay. He goes, I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. And I just, like, my jaw dropped down and I was just so excited, because there's some things that we could still work on, making sure I got enough protein. He was struggling a little bit with lean muscle mass and the gym and things. I was just so happy. Because generally I'll get people that are really quite broken. And I'm like, oh, I don't get many easy cases nowadays. So I was like, yay.
Yeah. I feel like I've been one of those hard cases a few times.
No, I love that I'm your emergency. But yeah, maybe a little bit early in the stage, you could go, Lyns.
Well, you were the first person I told when I was pregnant at 4 weeks and one
Oh,
day.
cool. What an honor.
And just so everyone knows, Lynsey, right from that starting point, helped me to do everything I could to not get gestational diabetes, which is pretty uncommon when you've had it once. And I didn't get it the second baby. So I put that down to...
Oh, it's your work. I didn't do anything. It's just, you just need a sounding board sometimes to make sure you're on the right path to come through.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that. I feel special.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. Well... you were the first person I messaged and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, got to see you.
Yeah, I love that women are thinking about preconception and even that early pregnancy. I still would actually love to do a little bit more in that space. Younger generations are thinking about, okay, if I'm planning on having a baby in maybe 2 years from now, I probably need to clean up my act a little bit now. One area that I still feel like there's a really big gap is in between pregnancies. So what we do know with clinical research is most women, by the time they have their first baby, nutrient-wise, they're pretty replete as long as they've taken care of themselves. And if they've definitely done that preconception care. But every consecutive child, believe it or not, because if you think about the journey of after you have your baby, it's late nights, it's breastfeeding, you're tired, it's exhausting. Nutrition sometimes goes out the window for the mums. And so every consecutive child actually has a mother's body that is not as nutritionally replete as the first time.
Yeah, compounds.
Yeah. So if you have a second baby and then a third baby, and, if you go to 4 babies, if you want to give each child the same best foundational standpoint nutritionally, then that means in between your babies, there's actually work that needs to be done there. And I don't think that's talked about. The preconception is now, which I'm like, awesome, amazing. But the in between, I don't know if you ever heard anyone talk
I've never
about
thought about that. I mean, for me, I did a lot of work in between, as you know.
Just for your own health, huh?
Yeah, for my own health. But I didn't think of it in that way. It was for selfish reasons, not for this is beneficial for my next baby.
Yeah, yeah. Which it's important to still do it for yourself. But then, maybe now it might make people think, I didn't even think that's a whole nother layer and a whole nother motivating factor. Because sometimes as women, we struggle with this self-care. And I actually feel like that's a biological thing. Primally, we are programmed to self-sacrifice. That's what makes us be able to be moms. But we have difficulty or all this guilt justifying self-care. And sometimes in my client, I have to use the guilt card and saying, look, especially if you have little daughters, even with little sons, it's fine. I'm like, there's that quote, your child will rarely succeed at listening to you, but they will succeed at becoming you. And so as a mom, and if you have little daughters and even sons, are you showing them what self-care is like? Or are you showing them that the role of a woman is just to be exhausted and burn out and tired and last on the list and all of those things? And so sometimes I have to put that guilt card because still women can't find a good enough reason to take care of themselves. And I'm like, you're doing it for you, but you're also going to do it for them because they're watching. So if your little child sees you start out every morning with some breath work, it subconsciously will be in the back of their mind so that maybe when they get to 20s and stress might be a little bit high, they will think, wait a minute, you know, mom always used to go out on the deck and watch the sun come up and do breath work. So maybe I should try that.
Yeah, totally.
It's a really cool way to think about actually focusing on your health. It really has this generational impact, consciously and subconsciously.
Yeah, I actually love that. I think even my husband does stretches. He has a bit of a bad back. And he does like a lot of stretching at home. And my daughter like now will get
Go and do it.
her little mat and go do it next to him. Like I feel like it's like, I mean, even just on a very simplistic level, it's like monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yeah.
And she's even been to the studio with me
Yeah.
a few times. If I've taught mat classes and stuff, I'll set up her little
And she does it.
mat and she'll do it. But yeah, I think it's a really great way to think about it. I mean, in some ways it's a bit sad because it's like, okay, so I'm only going to take care of myself because it'll impact someone else. It's like, I'm not just going to do it for myself. I've thought about this a lot because I definitely struggle with self-care. But I mean, if that's how it's going to work, then
It's like, I wish it wasn't, but sometimes to get women to like just do it, it's like, if it's for someone else, especially a loved one, a baby, a child, or someone else, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to play that card just to get you going, just to get you to get started. And then when you actually get started on those self-care things, you realize, I'm a better mom. I feel better. You know, I'm a better wife. I can just do these things. I'm a better business owner. Like I have more in my tank because so much energy is going out as a mom and a businesswoman, and such little is coming in. And this big deficit that we have is where this is the recipe for burnout, which every woman, look, I've been guilty of it myself. Every woman at some point has not got that balance right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, totally. And I think I actually spoke about this on a podcast like a few episodes ago. It was just like talking about nervous system and how there's certain things that you can do to actually like increase your capacity to hold more. And I think that it's actually just, to me, just feels like a bit of like a secret recipe. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? So I don't have to like just stop doing everything. It's just like I have to do things to be able to like show up as a better quality. And like I think it's like the same kind of concept of sometimes when we had Billy and then the first time we went away, or I've been on a few like solo trips without her, and I know that everyone has their own things with their kids, but for me personally, I'm like, okay, cool. If I can have like the independence to go and do this on my own, then I can be a better quality mum to her.
Yeah.
When I am with her, I'm more present rather than like stretching out everything and just like feeling guilty for going on a 4-day holiday or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's just energetics. It's so much energetics, and energy, this thing that we can't grasp, it's something that comes in many ways. Nutrition is one of them, but connection is another. Space and time, shutting down the mind a little bit, getting into the body. There's lots of ways that you can get the energetic balance in and out, right? I have such a soft spot for women because every single day I see them so sad or distraught or unhappy or just, a little bit. It really gets to me. I just see it far too much. And I want to do something about it because there's just too much imbalance in women. And I think part of it is our culture. I think we are designed to be that self-sacrificial, very nurturing, which is such a beautiful part of being a woman. That's a job in its own. Just that's enough. But you look at a modern day woman, we are business owners, we're moms, we're accountants, we're chauffeurs, we're chefs, we're cleaners, it's different. So our physiology which is adapted to function in a certain way, is really still adapted to a life where a woman's life, our main job was loving, caring, nurturing. And now we have so much more we're doing in our physiology. So from the neck down, it's only been a change in the last sort of 80 to 100 years that culture has shifted. That is a blip on the radar when it comes to evolutionary perspective. Physiologically, our body has not been able to make the adaptations for the demand that we're putting on it. Our brain can adapt, but our body and our physiology still struggles a little bit. And women just have to realize that. We just need balance.
And do you feel like that's where like a nervous system regulation kind of comes in?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We're too much stuck in that sympathetic nervous system constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our physiology is oriented that way anyway. You know, I don't know about you. You might want to reflect. When I fell pregnant with Willow, I was actually teaching because I took a break from clinical nutrition and practice, and I had this idea that I wanted to get in to teach kids, which was my whole ulterior motive of teaching. So I wouldn't go back to school, went postgraduate education, and went into the school system. And I remember the first few years that I was working, I'd have duty, and the kids would be running around. It'd be like no big deal. The minute I fell pregnant, if a kid was running on concrete, like that adrenaline, like it was like danger, alert, like mode. And I remember like telling the kids not to run in school on the concrete and making them run on the grass because the thought of a child hurting themselves physiologically was just so stressful to me. And the minute you fall pregnant, your biochemistry shifts. And it shifts to be on alert mode because that's your job as a mom. Your whole job is to keep that baby safe, and it can extend to other kids as well. Did you ever notice that change in you?
Well, just when you were saying that, it's actually really interesting. I think when I fell pregnant with Billy, because we found out we were pregnant during COVID, and we had a lot of other things going on and weren't really exposed to other kids, you know, like we're in lockdown. Literally we found out we're in lockdown for 3 months. But I definitely noticed this time when I got pregnant, I had this huge shift. Like as soon as I found out, I had this huge shift around some personal things that I was like, oh, that needs to change. That's not a priority anymore. And I can definitely relate to that. And then even so, you're like more, like just like little things, like we had a party the other day, and one of the dads was like throwing the kid around, like just, you know how dads are, they play rough.
Totally.
And I was like, I actually can't watch. I just can't watch. It's not my place to say anything. He's not doing anything wrong, but like I can't watch. I just can't be involved in this, you know. It's like feels really stressful.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying is biologically you will have these shifts where your nervous system, where maybe you were a little bit more mellow and relaxed at things prior to when you do have this big biological shift of, you know, pregnancy and having a baby, it will amplify.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that as a woman. So knowing that there is going to be these changes where your nervous system, it's literally your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your brain changes in its sensory system. Knowing that changes when you fall pregnant, this is where we have so many women, so many problems. It is even more important for you to have that self-care and balance during that time when you have little ones than it was prior to. But it's the time when you have the least amount of self-care, which is tough. And part of it, again, you could go back and look, you know, culturally, we used to raise babies together and now every mom's doing it on their own. And I think that's a real shame. Yeah. You know, you have your babies groups and, you know, moms get together at the park, which is lovely. But we're talking bigger community here where you had aunties and grandmas and other women, and some, you know, would take the babies and you could have a little bit of balance. But every woman's really doing it tough sometimes and doing it on their own, and combine that with a nervous system that's going to be activated even more. And then it's just like the perfect storm for, you know, adrenal issues, thyroid issues. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think even taking it away a little bit from like being a mum, I think I've even been through the process with you. Obviously, I was struggling really bad with depression. Yeah. Went to the doctor. They said about medication. And you said, just give me a month.
Yeah.
Just
please.
Just please give me a month. And a lot of that, there was some supplements, but like a lot of and food changes, but like a lot of that was to do with circadian rhythm and ice baths, saunas, self-care activities, grounding.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never went on those medications. That month was enough to kind of like switch that.
Yeah.
And a big part of like also not wanting to go onto medication for me was knowing that I would want to get pregnant again.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, so I'm going to go on medication. Then when I want to get pregnant, I'm going to have to stop the medication, which means I'm going to have to deal with this problem at that time.
Getting off an SSRI too is not an easy feat.
Yeah. And then I was like, and then I'm going to be pregnant and depressed.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm going to, and so I think that like, obviously that nervous system regulation is so important for anyone. And
100%, even just, young women that haven't had babies yet and they're in business, and they're in there and they're trying to be in that masculine, trying to compete on the same level and, prove their worth and their value. And that can be a whole stressful situation as well. I so wish I could communicate to every person, every health condition, sign, symptom, whether it be anxiety or depression or thyroid dysregulation or whatever it may be, that is your body's communication pathway. That is the only way it can tell you that there is an imbalance. So if we stop for a moment, and look, there's a time and place for medication. Don't get me wrong. There are times that we need it to help people. But sometimes just taking medication means that you're actually stopping that moment where you're listening and you're going, what is my body actually trying to tell me right here?
you're numbing it. Just a Band-Aid.
Yeah. So for you, I mean, there was an imbalance there. Anxiety and depression are really two big, physiologically, there are some things that changed, particularly from a gut health perspective. But it can be very much influenced by your environment. And if you're not, emotionally happy, if there's relationship issues, if there's something going on, it's your body's like direct way of saying, hey, this is what needs to shift. And you'll only actually get resolution on that when you identify what your body's imbalanced in.
Yeah.
Because an SSRI, it's just tricking your body, recirculating a small amount of serotonin at the receptor site. It's not necessarily getting to the root cause of what we know. And depression, I could go on for an hour of where the research is sitting.
Yeah.
And
I think even, between the two babies, I had a miscarriage and we spoke about that as well. And some things that were going on for me that, really wasn't a safe environment in my body, or an environment where a baby could grow and flourish. And, I've got a lot of friends who are amazing, like businesswomen, all the rest of it. And it just seems like a common theme for my age group.
Of miscarriage or
of
just fertility?
Miscarriage and fertility.
Yeah.
I would say out of my friends, like it's not even like a 1 in 4, it's like a 3 in 4.
I know.
Kind of situation.
You know what that is again, biology and Mother Earth, however you want to frame it, is very clever. So fertility is now one of the biggest issues. It used to be obviously falling pregnant was just like, oh, whoops, geez, I don't want another baby. Now women are really struggling and they're having to use interventions to get there. Just so I can kind of create the link of how nervous system activation is just a huge effect on your hormones is, okay, we'll touch a little bit, we'll deep dive a little bit into hormones. We have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, those main 3 sex hormones. Men and women both have them. Women have varying levels. But when it comes to one of them, progesterone, which is a very calming, grounding sex hormone, but it's also a very important role in maintaining a healthy pregnancy. It's not only made in the ovaries, it's also made in your adrenal glands. And a lot of women go, what? What are you talking about? I've never even heard this. And you're like, why? Like, why would biology make some of your sex hormones being made in your adrenal glands? And I go, it's very clever. Because if you are putting this huge HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, if you're pushing on those adrenals and you're just pushing through things with any balance, then you're going to be asking those adrenals to produce more cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. So as those stress hormones go up, progesterone production goes down. And this is a huge direct link of why it will start to even affect fertility. And it's the body basically going, oh my God, what the hell is going on around there? Now is not a good time to have a baby. It's so clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so if women are struggling, even if anyone's listening, and if you're struggling with fertility issues, please don't ignore the fact that our biology has this innate intelligence about it, and it's a sensory system, and it's trying to receive messages from internal, external food, nutrition, what's going on, and making a decision whether that's actually a safe thing for you and to have a baby.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It's massive. So what kind of advice, I know like obviously everyone's so different, but what kind of, I'm just going to take this from like my own personal perspective. What kind of advice would you give somebody who doesn't necessarily have as much of a choice to like cut down their workload, for example, in their business, but they want to conceive?
Yeah.
They want to create that safe environment.
You know what the craziest thing is? The most powerful tool that we have to switch your nervous system from sympathetic, which is fight or flight, go, 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 aka modern living, to parasympathetic, rest, digest, and heal, is your breathing.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
It's
So
literally free.
It is, but the thing is like you can be in a busy day of work, and if you're locked in and you go, look, there's no way I can shift my hours. I can't, no. Sometimes we try and find reasons why we can't do things. And I'm like, you can sit at your desk, and the minute you start sensing this pressure, tension, your shoulders are raising up to your ears, and you just feel this ball of tension and anxiety, stop and breathe. But start practicing that real deep belly breathing, because it's the fastest thing. Like even if we were to do it here and we just take a deep breath in through our nose, like what do you notice? Instant softening.
Yeah,
The
even just
shoulder.
like,
Instant. So this is what I was saying is, that is the simplest example of it is not unachievable to maintain balance in your every day. You just do have to walk through life with a little bit of consciousness of, oh, wait a minute, my shoulders are up here, or I'm feeling that tension. You have to have something that's a trigger for you. I even noticed it because it happened to me when I had both babies. I think Willow was maybe 4, Millie was maybe 2. I started to realize I was in mom mode. And when I say mom mode, it's that whole alert mode. And the way that it was this really impactful moment when I had Willow's my slow child, but she was a gift. I think she was a universal gift. It's like, I'm going to give you a very slow child so that you can slow down, because she doesn't do anything fast. And then Millie, my second one, is a little bit more like me. She's a bit of a doer. But I had, one in front and then like one dragging behind. And I was just like power walking. And it might have even just been to go get groceries. And I had this moment of noticing the pace of my 2 children, and then noticing the pace that I was walking. And I was like, where am I going? In such a tither, like such a fast mode. So for me, my trigger point was how fast I was walking. So I asked some women to go, you need to identify in your day-to-day basis, like what is it that you notice about your own physiology that is that sign that you're starting to get into that, amplified adrenal state.
Yeah.
It could be the shoulders. It could be that your stomach's in knots. It could be getting neck or back pain. It could be all sorts of things that's your trigger. So if you walk through life identifying those little things, then put something into place, which could be something as simple as like a breath.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Is that sometimes we're so smart, but we're so silly sometimes.
Yeah.
We're just too focused sometimes on things, and we let the really important foundational things go out the window.
Yeah, totally. I actually really going to pay attention next time, because so the universe gave me my husband, and he is like a slow, like he's like, he's
chilled.
He's chilled. I don't want to call him a slow. Like he's just like, he makes decisions more slower than I do. He moves more slower than I do. And I've noticed with Billy, even though she's not like super slow in those ways, but I notice that she gets flustered and sometimes acts up when she's being rushed.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one who's rushing her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're the ones that are doing it. Yeah.
And I've started to like really pay attention to that and be like, okay, how can you kind of like give yourself more time?
Yeah.
Because this is also just to do with me being like a bit chaotic and like being fucking late to everything. But how can you give yourself more time so that she doesn't feel like that? Because like I'm creating this environment where she's starting her day, rush, 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 we got to get out the door. You can eat your food in the car or whatever.
My biggest concern is we are imparting this cultural shift in adult humans being in an adrenal like amplified state, and we're influencing that children are, because it's when you're a child is when you have that freedom to what do I want to do today? You know, there's no time constraints or schedules, but yet we're really starting to infiltrate into children's lives, which means, and then I see this, it makes me really sad. I'm seeing way more children that are anxious, and I see, you know, the average age of my clients probably was mid 40s to 50s, and now I'm seeing children, and I'm seeing children with significant health conditions. So this is like a big red flag for me. I wish I could say that people's health is improving, but I'm seeing a trend of the age of more significant health problems coming younger. So I'm like, again, I suppose that's through all my businesses. I'm like trying to like wave red flags around going, guys, we just need to stop. We need to have some consciousness of, you know, you can still have an amazing life and you can get things done and be productive, but you have to have the non-negotiables in there. You have to have an awareness to keep balance.
I think it's like, it's so interesting because it feels like there's just such this like these two opposite sides of what's happening with our next, like our kids, because there's this huge like cohort, I don't know if it's just people I am surrounded by, but huge amount of people who are so conscious, consciously parenting, so specific about the way that they do things and the medicines and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've also got this culture that feels like it's just like rat racy. And it's like, you know, it's like you've got these two wild ends of the spectrum.
Polarities, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like, I find it really hard to, well, a few years ago after I'd had Billy, we spent 3 months in Fiji, and Fiji's like, you know, it's like Fiji time.
It's like Hawaiian time, which is where I'm from. Yes.
So that was really beautiful. And actually at the end of those 3 months, I noticed I was just dropping weight. I felt very relaxed, very calm, all that stuff. And even down to nutrition, because you don't have like all the
Simpler
drive-throughs and all that stuff there as well. So like if you're eating something that you've cooked, and then coming back and going like, okay, wait, I'm not going to let myself get back into this rat race. But then it sneaks in, and then you're like, because it's part of the culture. But it's so it's just very interesting.
It is. I remember understanding, like, I suppose what I do, I often think, oh God, should I have gotten a psychology degree as well? Because there's so much about mindset and, you know, getting people to shift and how do they make change and all of that. And I remember just, you know, because I often talk a lot about the stress response because it's my arch enemy. So when I'm trying to fix someone's health and well-being, the body is incredible and it knows what's going on. It knows when there's something wrong. It actually has the capability of healing if you give it what it needs to do. But there's a very big hurdle, which again is this whole nervous system that we're talking about. And I remember going, God, how do I get it through to clients that I'm talking to, just how much of an influence on their health is? And I remember listening to a podcast of like a holistic clinical psychologist, and they said, because so much of our culture, consciously and unconsciously, is giving us this message that stress equals success. And you're not successful unless you're stressed.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that hit. I was like, that is such a big part of this message that maybe we're not aware of that's, you know, going on. And so again, I think it's just consciousness and awareness of anything first to allow you to make changes. So you have to be aware of that first.
Yeah.
Whereas in my book, I'm like, having a horrible health is like the complete opposite of what I think success is. And, you know, when you get to the point where your health is failing, you really quickly realize that. But I don't wish that upon anyone, to get to the space where their health is really failing, because then you realize, God, that is the most important thing that I have.
I think it's like actually really interesting to even stop and think about like what success means to you.
Yeah.
You know, because I think a lot of the time when we talk about success, people are like, I want like this many money.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And I think
That's going to constantly change. You get to that level, you're going to want more. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, what is success to you personally? And like really thinking about that and like being aware of that.
What was your answer to that?
My answer now, like my answer like 6 years ago would have been like, have successful businesses, But my number one thing for success is health now.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's like number one, what I think is most important. And then I think having a happy family.
Yeah.
Like for everyone to be like
Genuinely happy. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's really
It's
like
simple
success.
stuff. Yeah.
And then like little things I'd want, like I don't care about a big house, all these things. I just want to travel business class.
Yeah. No,
Because it's so uncomfortable traveling not.
I agree.
I'm like, that's the only like, you know, really
Splurging sort of thing.
thing that's like, you know, bougie or whatever. I'm like, that's just what I want.
I get that
to be able
one.
to
Totally.
afford that. Yeah.
Yes. You look at them up there and you're like, oh, they can lay down.
Yeah. But I mean, back to the health thing, I feel like, you know, I've got 1 4-year-old. I got another on the way, and I think like I look at my parents, they're pretty healthy, and my husband's parents as well. And it's like, I want to grow up where I can play with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm not like, you know, I'm not struggling through depression. One of the big things for me was Billy just seeing me like every day, and Jordan saying like, oh, mummy's just not feeling well.
Yeah.
She can't come play. You know, it's like that. And even with this iron infusion I've had recently, because I've literally been like unable to really do anything. And Jordan's just saying to like, Billy's like coming in like, mummy, are you still not feeling well?
Yeah.
And it kind of breaks your heart. And it's like, well, I want to like for the most, as much as possible,
You don't
just
want
be
that,
healthy.
You don't want that to be her memory of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as we get older, like when I have grandkids or if I have grandkids, it's like I want the same. Like I want to be active and involved. And if there is any health issues, like I want to be able to say this is not for a reason, something that I could have been prevented.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 100%. It's getting in a preventive health mindset's a really interesting, psychological analysis. I remember years ago being so young watching, and I'm going to totally tell my age now. You may not have listened to the documentary from Al Gore called An Inconvenient Truth.
Oh, yeah, I watched it.
Okay.
We had to watch it at school.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, I was young at that time. I don't know how young I was, but I remember a point that was really impactful for me, because I originally started out, all my study was actually in more biological environmental sciences, because as a young child, I always loved understanding the inner workings of how the planet worked, or plants, or, you know, that was just such a fascinating thing for me. And then I got my accident, which shifted me into nutrition. But I remember watching this documentary, and there was this one impactful moment, which I don't know if you can remember, where they're talking about a frog. And it was a little cartoon, and they're saying, if you take a frog and you stick it in lukewarm water and you slowly turn up the heat, that frog will stay in there and they'll die. But if you have a frog that tries to jump in hot water, it'll jump straight out. And they were using this analogy from the standpoint of our ignorance around environmental change. Mm-hmm. But I think back now, and I'm like, that so is a very similar analogy to the way it is with our health. So it's not until something's really bad that we'll do something about it.
Yeah.
But the preventative mindset, it really does take this little consciousness every day to go, hang on a minute, what can I do today? And sometimes I'll frame it for certain clients and be like, I just want you to get up and ask yourself, what's my one thing? What's the one thing I'm going to do today that's going to be keeping balance or self-care And it can be just one thing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people don't realize they go through every single day, 7 days a week with 0 things that they've done for their health and well-being. So it's crazy.
And it can be less overwhelming as well to just do that one thing, and that becomes a habit, and habit stacking in that way.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Love it. So we've been chatting for a long time.
I was going to say, go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Quickly about Mama's Toolkit. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. That actually came from one of my most popular seminars. So I haven't done seminars for a while, but I do love them because it's getting out in the community. And the one that was like, I remember doing it at the Pocket Espresso Bar down at Moffat Beach. And we advertised the seminar, which was just, again, empowering, mom and dads. It doesn't have to be just moms, but anyone who wants to kind of gather that knowledge and wisdom that I think we used to have passed down from grandma to mom to daughter, those generational, beautiful little bits of information, get them back into the culture of the family about like what to do when your child has an ear infection, or what do I do if I have the rash? Because so many women who are already stressed, then when their child gets sick, it's just panic. And it's the ultimate source of real primal stress when your child is unwell, because it's my baby. And then you run to the GP, and generalizing, there's either steroid or an antibiotic is like the first 2 protocol of what they're going to be giving you. So this whole thing got so packed out that I remember people were like sitting on top of certain things and they couldn't even see. So I thought, okay, well, that's obviously a demand. And I thought, I have another girlfriend who's actually my business partner for the Natural Moms Toolkit, Stacy, who same thing. I think it was her emergency call. She'd be like, oh my God, Jai is sick. What do I do here? And then I remember having conversations and thinking it would be amazing to, because I'm only one person and you can only kind of get out to so many people, that if I could develop natural first aid kits. Yeah. And so we have 4 at the moment, which one's a digestive one. One's like a family all-rounder, one's an immune pack, and one's a digestive pack. So that... No, sorry, the 4th one, you said digestive twice. Oh, did I? Sorry. So Mum and Bub. Yes, Mum and Bub. Sorry, Mum and Bub, digestive, family, and immune edition. So we have those 4 different kits that you can order so that... And I tried really hard. It was actually really hard to make the decisions on what to put in them. So that at any moment, like if someone goes down with an illness... that you've got something in this kit that, especially it's like Saturday afternoon. Of course, your children always seem to get sick on the weekends. You're like, I can't get in a GP. What do I do? And to be able to have that just in the house ready. And these kits last for 9 months, a year, it depends on how much you use them. But it's just like a real safety net. And if I could do anything, like I said, I have a soft spot for women. And if we can take away a worry by giving them something like a natural first aid kit, and there's an ebook that had to stop myself at 40 pages. So it's a 40-page ebook of just in my 18 plus years of clinical practice, just the little remedies and things, do this, grab this. So you can either just get the ebook, or you can get the 4 editions of the natural first aid kits, or you can buy items individually. So that's where it's come from. So we've only launched that recently. Yeah, it's really awesome. I actually got my box recently, and then the ebook was really handy just to kind of guide me. It's like guide me of what to do, and it's almost like having consult without having a consult. Yeah, that's the way Stacey says it. Is she puts it lovely. She's like, it's like having Lynsey in your pocket. Yeah, I was like, you could, or any practitioner. Like I said, it's really, and some people, I love that they have the practitioners, but sometimes it is Saturday and you don't want to go bug them. Yeah, they have lives as well, so you just have something. Yeah. Like in an emergency thing. Yeah, so I was really excited about it. So we'll see how it evolves, and we're slowly building out the wellness store and getting it out there, bits and pieces. Yeah. I think it's really, really clever, really awesome. And I think it also goes along that line of like making clients self-sufficient and have like the knowledge themselves that they're not dependent. Yeah. They kind of like have that, well, knowledge is power. Actually just saying that in my last podcast as well. Just having that knowledge and like knowing what to do, it's quite empowering. Our children need to know this too. The really cool moment as a mom for me is I remember, the little ones growing up and we use natural remedies and herbs and things. When I was sick, Willow was like 5 or 6. And unbeknownst to me, she went outside, went downstairs, went out to the garden, grabbed some thyme, grabbed some like herbs, and then she went upstairs. She asked Daddy to boil water for her, put the herbs in the thing, and brought me like this little medicinal tea. And I thought, oh God, the fact that she knows this at 5. And so I really want women, we need to recover this wisdom. I think it's so important. I think we did really used to be the healers. You know, that was a big function of us as women in the past. And I really want women to regain that knowledge and information so that then our children know this. You know, things like ear infections. Like ear infections, you will get prescribed an antibiotic, which has devastating effects on the microbiome and gut health, as we know. And there are time and place that you need antibiotics, but ear infections generally are ones that will reside on their own. But of course, they're painful and difficult, and women stress. And we have in 2 of the kids, the family and the immune, I have the mullein and garlic ear oil. So little Millie, my youngest daughter, is very small sinus passages. So this is her weak point. She always gets nasal sinus issues. I had to use that all through her little, but she did not have any antibiotics. She had quite a few ear infections here and there because it was so small and compact. Did not have to use antibiotics once for it. So, you know, yeah, mamas and the babies and all the generations, like, I don't know, it's my way of getting in there and like putting it back in there in the culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So from a business perspective, I would just in a really quick way, just love to chat to you a little bit about your actual business journey, because we were talking about it off camera just before.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how you explained like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been like I've just thrown myself into this. I almost don't even like the word entrepreneur. I don't know. I'm not, it's a beautiful thing to do, but I'm like, is that me? That's not me. I was like, I don't know. I just do the things that I love. But I been really realizing from a business perspective, I need to upskill. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, now that I have 3 of them, I need to know what the hell I'm doing here, which I've realized I don't know what I'm doing. I've hired a, administrative assistant. She's my angel, but I was listening to podcasts and they were saying, oh, look, if you're an entrepreneur, you should probably work underneath an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh, well, damn, too late. I kind of just jumped in. And I think there is some advantage to jumping into something that you're passionate. You're going to probably make mistakes along the way. I did. I had difficult things. I had business partnerships that didn't work out, and that was really brutal at the time. And there's such incredible learning. I don't know if there's any faster route of learning than jumping in.
I think that the fastest way to learn is through your mistakes or that sort of stuff. Yeah. Well, that's why I love to call them like learnings.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
You learn.
Yeah.
But that didn't work.
I always say the most uncomfortable you feel is where you're growing the most. Yeah. Yeah. And trust me, in business, I've been uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's okay. Getting there.
Yeah.
I think if you have authenticity and if you have purpose and if you have passion, and I think if people get the sense about you that you're not doing it just to get money from them, I don't think you can ever fail. I really don't. Yeah. And whatever size or capacity that gets to, whatever it may be, that's fine. That's when you asked about what you deem as success. Success for me from a business perspective is probably making an impact positively, while you're here on this journey in life. And the other one is still having some time. Yeah. As a mom, as a family, I think I recently had that question asked to me from a marketing guy. And he goes, what are your goals? And, like you said, someone might say, I want to have $1 million by this date. And I'm like, that's not my focus. I said my 2 words, because I couldn't even think when someone asks you that question, it's so big. You're like, oh God, what do I want? Those are my 2 words that came to me. I said, impact and time. I said, I just want to make an impact. But I said, I do need my time back because I've been at fault at stretching and not having enough time to do anything. So this marketing guy said, well, I can help you with both of those. Yeah. And I was like, sign me up. Awesome. Help.
So if you're in marketing.
100%.
Yeah. I love that. I think they're really like beautiful, well thought out, concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. So important.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap up, for people's health, because all your businesses are based around health.
Yeah.
What are 3 things that they could just start doing today?
Okay. One is trying to identify your triggers for when you are in that adrenal nervous system space. Yeah, it's very, very, because it will look individual for each person.
Yeah.
It might be that you're getting snappy with your children when you get home. That's a real big sign of, ooh, I think that's probably one with my husband. He noticed it like when he, stretches himself too thin, his tolerance is not so good. So you need to identify what that trigger is that you are probably in an imbalanced state in your life. I am a big fan of body modalities. So, and look, I'm guilty. I'm in my head. I'm a thinker. I analyze everything to the nth degree. We need to get out of the head and we need to get into the body. So when I talk about body modalities, exercise is one. Sauna, ice bath, whatever, breath work, tapping, whatever it may look like to you, you need to stop this pace of this mind and get into the physiology a bit more. And of course, I have to put a third one in there about nutrition, because it is the single practice that we do 3 times a day that is going to provide our entire system and organs and tissues with what it needs to run. So I'm a big fan of looking at your breakfast, because nowadays it's too overwhelming for people to try and think of, revamping their whole breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I often will start so many of my clients going, if you just nail your breakfast, watch what happens. Because if you look at food as information, the information you're giving your body first thing in the morning will set the theme for the entire day. And this is even from a glucose and insulin control, everything. So I'm a big fan of what I call dinner breakfasts, which, you see my pictures.
Yeah. We love a dinner breakfast.
I was like, it should look more like what you eat for dinner, which is protein and good fats and lots of colorful vegetables and things like that. So we need to revolutionize breakfast. So I'd say those are my 3 tips.
I love it. Yep. Awesome. In terms of the nutrition side of things, if people don't know, like they're just starting from scratch, they don't really know where to start, where would you tell, like obviously you could start those 3 things at home, but where would they start?
I would just say start looking what's actually in your own fridge and cupboard. Like, you know how many people don't actually, like they'll eat something, but they don't know what's in it. So if you had a bottle there with a big like poison skull label, you wouldn't look at it and go, oh yeah, I'll drink that. Have a look at the back of the labeling and see how many of those ingredients that you know what they are. Probably can't pronounce half of them. And really start there going, geez, you know what? I'm putting something inside my body that I actually have no idea what is being put in. So that whereas it's just simply turning towards a little bit more of a whole foods diet is like, look at your cupboard, look at your fridge, start reading things. That's honestly probably where people need to start. Yeah.
One more question. It's a personal question.
Okay.
Chocolate Cocoa Bella.
I did see your post. I laughed about that. I'd have to look at the ingredient label. I was like,
I was actually like, am I going to do this? Because I'm like, but I have looked at the ingredients and there's only like 4 ingredients in it.
Okay. Coconut water, coconut cream, raw sugar, alkalized cocoa, citrus fiber, which is citric acid, natural chocolate flavor. Okay, so when this is what
the eyebrow went up.
Yeah. This is what I teach my children to do. Okay, when you're looking at an ingredient panel, particularly from the sugar perspective. Now, coconut water is nature's Gatorade, and I use it clinically as a tool for sure. But you have to recognize it does have glucose in there. It has salt, it has potassium, it has minerals. So you just have to recognize it is in there. But they've added extra raw sugar to it, which why I don't think they even needed it if you get a good coconut water. I tell my girls when they look at a nutritional panel, because we're all going to have some sugar. You can't be perfect because that's not fun in life. That per serving, you should be aiming for 5 grams or under. So have a look at how many are in your serving.
Per serving
of sugars.
13 grams.
So we're just under triple what I would say to my children to go, you need to stay, generally when you're looking at something that's sweet, aim for like 5, maybe stretch to 6 grams per serving. So every once in a while, I feel like I'm shattering your Cocoa Bella dreams. Sorry.
It's all right. I guess you could just have 100 mils, which is 5.4 grams.
Perfect. So now you're going to have 100 ml doses and you can swear my name, curse my name as you're drinking your 100 mils.
Well, that'll save me a lot of running around trying to find bottles of Cocoa Bella.
Your big stash at home that you found is going to last you a lot longer.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I say, life is balance too. Is you can't go, it's not psychologically good to think of food as like, evil or bad or things like that. We do just have to be connected to it.
Yeah.
And we have to be aware what we're putting in there.
I wonder what like a normal coconut water would be.
Each brand's slightly different. Yeah. So I buy the one that's called Cocoa Coast, just simply because the taste wise, my family loves it the better. But again, like we kind of, that's like, you get
a serving.
You get a little glass of it, and that's about it.
Yeah.
My husband's another one that I have to like pry it out of his hand as he's drinking out of the bottle. I'm like, stop doing that. And then I'm like, you've had enough. But he trains pretty hard with jiu-jitsu. So I was like, oh, we'll see.
It's okay.
So it is about balance, but you know how disconnected we are from our food. And like I said, we put these things in our body without any knowledge at all whatsoever of what's being put in there, which I think you got to start there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you wanted to mention?
No, I think we mentioned all of them. For people that have, got digestive health concerns, actually, very quickly, I am very excited. Nourish Blend's Got Food is one that I've just had so many people write in, tell me they're off meds. I was like, almost to the point where I'm like, no, what else did you do? This can't be real. Like, it couldn't have helped that much. So I actually have just undertaken a little mini clinical research trial with it. So I got a cohort of people that had a range of digestive health concerns because I wanted statistical data. And I put them through a 2-month protocol of scaling up your fiber because you got to go slow and you build it up. And I just got the results back that we collated. And it was even better than I would have ever thought. I honestly feel like I'm pinching myself. So they had to basically do a survey before listing symptom picture, and they ranked top number 1 symptom of their digestive health with other ones. And we got a 93.3% resolution on their top number 1 digestive health symptom, which to me, like, I don't know if you know statistical or clinical research papers, that is well and above what you need to actually say that your product works. So I'm just like,
it's amazing.
In shock, because I know I had beautiful people writing in, but I feel like there's a lot of gut health products, and some of them are really great. Completely went to just down the rabbit hole when it came to formulating the Nourish Blend's Got Food, not the OG version, but the one that I did. So if people have some digestive health concerns and they can't afford to go and see a practitioner just yet, it's a very gentle way to start. So they may want to look into it, and they're happy to message me if they want any questions, see if it's right for them.
Awesome. And I feel like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like Nourish Blend's Got Food would be beneficial to anyone.
Yeah, you can do pregnancy, you can do children, you can do, adults.
Even if you've got good health.
It's 100%. It's really fostering a healthy microbiome. We could do a whole nother podcast on the microbiome and the influence on our health. Yeah. So it's specifically and strategically designed to try and foster a very healthy and diverse microbial population. So.
Yeah. So if there was, I guess if someone was looking at supplements, etc., there's one thing that they could just go buy off the shelf that was gonna be beneficial.
Well, it's food. That's the one that's beautiful thing that I am really passionate about. And, I use natural therapies and supplements at times, but I'm more passionate about food. And Nourish Blend's Got Food is literally food.
Yeah.
So
Love
it's pretty safe.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah. I feel like we could
go for hours.
Yes, I know. I'm going to cut herself off.
Yeah. But, I really appreciate it. And I think that everyone else will appreciate all the beautiful insight you've given us as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. Cool.